Welcome to The Explainer. A major court ruling just dropped that could honestly change everything for U.S. trade policy. But the real story here? Well, it's a direct challenge to the power of the presidency itself.
So here's the headline that's causing all the waves. A U.S. appeals court has declared that a president's power to impose most tariffs is, in fact, illegal. And look, this is way more than just some small legal tweak. We're talking about taking away a massive tool used to shape foreign and economic policy.
Okay, so let's break down the details of what we know right now. The ruling comes from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. Now, it's super important to know that these tariffs don't just vanish overnight. The court's actually put a pause on this whole thing until October 14th. And what does that do? Well, it opens up this really critical window for one thing, a potential appeal to the Supreme Court.
So you might be asking, how did we even get here? To really get why the court made this, frankly, bombshell decision, we've got to dig into one specific law that's right at the heart of this entire case. It's called the IEEPA.
All right, so what is this law? What's the deal with the IEPEA?
Okay, so this law, the IEEPA, it was passed way back in 1977, and let me tell you, it is a powerful tool. It's designed to give the president these really broad powers to regulate the economy when facing what the law itself calls an unusual and extraordinary threat, something that qualifies as a national emergency. You can basically think of it like a big red economic emergency button.
And right here, this is where things start to get really interesting and controversial. Historically, IEPA was used against hostile nations, for things like sanctions or seizing assets. But pretty recently, that all changed. For the first time ever, this law was used to slap tariffs on major trading partners, not enemies, but partners. And the justification? Citing things like trade imbalances as a national emergency.
Okay, so let's get to the core of the ruling. How did the court explain itself? What was their main argument for saying no?
The court's reasoning here was actually pretty straightforward. They agreed that, yeah, the law gives the president significant emergency authority. But, and this is the absolute key, they basically said that the power to impose tariffs, which are, a tax, just wasn't explicitly written into the law. It's not there.
Okay, this is a really crucial point, so listen up. This ruling is not a blanket rejection of all tariffs. Not at all. It's laser-focused on tariffs that were justified under the IEEPA, so it doesn't touch other tariffs like, for example, the big ones on steel and aluminum. Why? Because those were put in place using a completely different law.
So yeah, this ruling is a huge deal. It's a monumental development. But it is definitely not the end of the story, not by a long shot. So what happens next? What should we be watching for as this whole legal and political drama starts to unfold?
All right, let's map out the legal road ahead. It's kind of like a three-step process. Step 1, we have today's ruling from the appeals court. Step 2, the administration has until that October 14th deadline to file an appeal. And let's be real, pretty much everyone expects them to. And that brings us to Step 3, which is the biggest question mark of all. Will the Supreme Court even agree to take up the case? Because they don't have to.
And, that really brings us to the massive, ultimate question this whole case puts right in front of us. This has gone way beyond just being about tariffs or trade policy. It's about the fundamental balance of power in our government. So the big question we're all left with is this. Will the Supreme Court use this case to draw a brand new, crystal clear line in the sand, redefining the absolute limits of presidential power?